Welcome back guys, GTS Garage. Today we are going to look at the preload adjuster on the ST1300A. Now this is a 2002 model. Now the preload adjuster is responsible for the suspension, or the rear suspension, and is able to change the rear suspension from soft to hard based on 180 degree clicks, and there are 36 of them. I hope that makes sense. So 36 clicks, each click is 180 degrees around. So that allows you to change from the softest setting to the hardest setting, depending on how much weight is on the back. So over time this can degrade. And the way it degrades is basically, you can turn the knob, but you'll notice there is no change in the suspension as you go through the first maybe 7 to 10 clicks. It makes no change, and that's an obvious sign that the suspension or the preload adjuster needs resetting. And the reset of that adjuster is fairly easy, to be honest, and it's not hard, and it's something that we are going to cover in today's video. So let's stop the waffle and let's crack on. Okay, so this is currently on the softest setting, and that's the full 36 clicks counterclockwise. Now when I go round, when I turn it clockwise, it's very easy. It's not making any changes to the bike whatsoever, and that is an indication that the oil in there is too old, or there's not enough of it. So I've got no tension whatsoever. It's only when I get to about 9 clicks, now it's just hitting, so now I can actually feel it making a change to the suspension. So that is what we're going to address today. Okay, first step is just to loosen the screw, but not all the way. So you're just loosening at this stage. Second step is to remove any of the preload that you have on it already. Now the important thing to remember is, when you take this screw out, there is a ball bearing, and it is going to fall out once you remove this knob. Now you may be able to see that ball bearing, but it's just on top, and there is a spring. So when you remove the knob, which is there, you will see the ball bearing and the spring on top. So don't lose the ball bearing. Now what we need to do is take this, and we need to raise it to the point that it is higher than the top of the shock, or the preload adjuster that's clamped around the shock. So the back end of this has to be higher than this frame. Okay, when it comes to removing the preload adjuster, we're going to start with the 10mm bolt up on the frame. So this is an adjuster bar. Remove the bolt, and we're just going to play with the cables underneath to get as much slack as we possibly can. Now on the other side it's clipped in, so you can remove it from this clip, which will give you a couple of mil, to be honest. It doesn't give you that much, but you can pull it around quite safely within reason, and that allows us then hook it over to there. We're going to take this off. We're going to use a 10mm spanner and just remove the bar. So the next step is to remove the banjo bolt from the top of the adjuster. So I'm going to use a 16mm to secure it in position. That's just a 16mm normal spanner, secure it in position, and then I'm going to break it with a 10mm. So just break that. Now when you break this, make sure that you have something to absorb the additional fluid that's in there, because it'll still be quite corrosive, any oil will be. So you want to catch that and not let it just drip on your frame. So that's again the 16mm and the 10mm. 16mm goes in there to secure it, and then you just leave it with the 10mm. And you want to keep the hose up as high as you possibly can, because you don't want to leak any of the oil that's already in there. So at this point you want to empty the oil, so take an old cup which I have here, and then I'm going to empty the contents of the adjuster into the cup. Which is, that looks good stuff in there, doesn't it? So that's it, that's all that was in there. So that's why I've lost 9 clicks. So I'm just using one of these. So when you empty it, and I undo this all the way to the end, and you'll just see, right, that's as far as it goes. Right, so when you come to empty it, you'll be able to push down, you'll just hear it. That's it. So that's all the way down to the bottom, so that's what we're going to fill. Okay, using a syringe of 4 coil. So this is the 3rd syringe full I've put in, and when you look at actually how much came out, that's why I was having issues. Again, you're just running the fluid. There you go. And that's it. We'll just run a little bit out, and then just run a little bit back in to make sure that there isn't an air bubble in there. No, that is it. Right, to the threads. Right, done. Okay. So we've now filled it up again. And what we want to do is put one underneath, one there, one there. Take this out and drop that in. Screw that in. Now I have not changed the copper washers because I don't have any, but I'm going to do it up tight. They don't look to be crushed, so we're now going to just do that up tight. Wash our hands down, taking the 16mm and the 10mm. We're now going to just do it back up. Done. Now I'm just going to clean everything up. Okay. and put everything, and put the bar back on. And put the bolts back in. And these are a 10 mount, so just nip through that. Put this back on the bike. There's a put this back in the clip. Like so. That's now secured. So we've put the ball bearing back in on top of the spring, and there is a groove where it runs, and you can see where that groove is. So we're now going to do the screw up. Perfect. And we're now just going to one, and you can feel the difference is day and night. This is now, right from the very beginning, you're actually feeling the suspension move. It's not like just wind, wind, wind. If you remember, I wish you could actually feel the difference, but it is a massive difference. So we're going to go up to where it suggests, which is I think about there. That's it. Okay guys, that is it. It's a fairly simple job. Took me about 25-30 minutes, and that's with filming. So it's not a hard job. You've just got to be careful you don't lose that ball bearing. You can buy spares, there are places, but don't lose the ball bearing. You know it's there. There's a spring ball bearing, so as you take that adjuster off, clamp your hand over it so it just doesn't disappear into the ether. And that is all there is to it. And as I said, very, very simple job. The difference is day and night, and per hand on heart, the difference is day and night. So when I first started, or before I started the job, I would get 9 clicks of fit, and the adjuster was very loose for about 9 clicks, and after about 9 clicks, you could feel the tension. So at that point, I believe it started working. That's now been confirmed. Once I've filled the reservoir up, put it all back on the bike, you feel resistance from the very first turn. So I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of pound users out there, or pound riders out there, that are in the same position that just do not realise that's why you get that loose adjustment. But that is the reason, and you can now restore it to what it was out of the factory. So I used 4-coil, exact same as in the guide, and the 4-coil is fine. I didn't use brake fluid. I wouldn't recommend brake fluid for anything but brakes. But 4-coil, I put it in, no issues at all, as did the original poster, and it worked for him. Okay, so that's it for this video. You ride safe, you take it easy, and I shall speak to you in another video. Take it easy, see you on the road. Bye.